Just curious, do you ever find yourself incredibly frustrated at what the heck you're going to do for money to, I don't know, pay down debt, pay the bills, or God forbid something happens to your job and you can't pay the bills? Who knows? That's a big frustration for probably almost just about everybody. And you want to know the quote-unquote secret to never having to worry about that ever again? Stick around, I'm going to explain it. It'll take just a couple of minutes, but it's so incredibly valuable, and you probably know somebody who could use this info as well. So I learned how to create money pretty much on demand. So if I ever need it for anything, like right away, I can create it on demand. It's not something I was born with. In fact, when I was in school, I was academically retarded. I was, in special ed classes, and I still barely passed. It wasn't good. So I don't have like the mainstream, as far as mainstream thinking goes, I don't have what it takes to be successful and being able to create money as I do and being financially free and retiring myself from the job racket at age 32, buying a house in cash. And I started from a place when I was completely broke and had no money, no job, no income, no anything. So I've overcome some pretty amazing obstacles, but it's all learned, nothing I was born with. But here's what it is. You have to learn how to exchange value for money. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So right now, I'm walking down the Fremont Experience in Las Vegas. I know a lot of you are familiar with what it is out here, but there's a really valuable lesson to you. Probably more than one lesson, but one in particular is, have you noticed there's a lot of panhandling and beggars and asking for your cash? They're in really tough circumstances. And this video isn't to pretend to know what it's like to be them or to judge them whatsoever. Not that at all. That is not cool. I've never walked in their shoes, and probably neither have you. So this video isn't about that. But if you notice, there's a lot of them that are begging for money. They're not exchanging any value whatsoever. They're begging for it. And then there's another group of people on the Fremont Experience who they're exchanging value for money. There's people that juggle stuff. There's artists. There's people that sculpt faces out of clay. There's people that do strange, bizarre things with their body that just captivates us. There's people that do magic tricks. There's musicians. There's all sorts of really cool stuff. And I notice every time I walk up and down this thing, the ones that are exchanging value for money, they're getting a lot more of it, and they're actually able to create it on demand, that's awesome. The people that are begging for money, they get very little, and they look so sad and depressed, and they're basically telling a sob story. And again, this isn't to judge them or anything like that. I'm just pointing something out for you, something that you can learn so much from, as well as myself. But a lot of people think that the best way to get money if they're in a bind is to ask for it, backed up by telling a sob story, and make the sob story as sobby as you can. And it's just human nature, That was the conditioning that I had once upon a time, but I've worked on that, and I no longer do that because I realized trading value for money is much more effective. But that's the human conditioning, is if you're in a bind and you need to come up with some money quick, it's a gut instinct to just ask for it for somebody with a really heart-wrenching sob story. And that is not the secret to generating any kind of wealth. It really isn't. You might get a couple dollars here or there. Somebody might borrow you some good money, but you know what? It doesn't solve the problem at the root. Not at all. If that's all you get out of it is a couple bucks from begging and creating a sob story for money, then the problem's going to pop back up all over again in your life, over and over and over again. You just create more frustration. That's no fun. So instead of putting your focus on creating a really sad story to get money and being needy and begging for it, put that same energy, multiply that energy, and start learning how to create value, something that people will pay you for. Value in exchange for money. That's what it's all about. And if you want to go a step further, which I recommend doing, learn how to create systems that are valuable, that run and create money with or without your involvement. The people that are here on Fremont that are exchanging value for money with their magic and their artistry and their talents and this and that, that's really cool, but they are working for money, and if they stop getting paid. So that's like a step up from begging for sure and telling sob stories. But the ultimate is when you create systems that you own, assets that you own, you cultivate them in a way that trades value for money and does it passively. Requires an upfront time investment, but boy is it worth it, because then it means that you get paid regardless of what you're doing, and that's freedom. That's when you cross the threshold of being a slave to money being your slave, and then you're no longer a slave to money. You're living this beautiful life that you've created, that you've constructed, of freedom and spending your time on whatever you want. And that's the place to be. That's where I eventually got to. Totally worthwhile. I recommend you do it too. So I hope you got something really valuable out of this video. It was a minute or two longer than I thought it would be, but man, this is such an important key concept. And if you're thinking to yourself, oh Tom, I don't need more money to be happy. Money isn't what happiness is about, and so on and so forth. That's true, but saying those kinds of things is actually very dangerous, and it affects the entire planet. Because when you say things like that, you cultivate this relationship that you have with money that makes it easy for the criminals of the world to control the money supply, and we wonder why we have the problems that we have. If we want to solve these problems, more good people like you need to put your ego aside and develop a wonderful relationship with money, so that you go out there and you make piles and piles of it. Preferably, you build up to making the passive income that pays you regardless of your involvement. We do that, we will seriously put a dent and possibly even end things like poverty and people begging for money and people dying of starvation and the billion kids in the world that don't even have food to eat. There's too many good people that have an ego trip that says, I don't need more money. Money doesn't make me happy and blah, blah. Even though it's true, it's still nothing but a bad ego trip, because you use that to justify giving the money supply to the criminals, and we wonder why we have the problems that we have. So I'm asking all of you good people out there to get over your hang up with money, attach a purpose behind it, so that you can go out and you're driven to make piles and piles and piles of it, and then we can see less beggars on the street, and less people starving to death, and less people here in Fremont that are, man, these sob stories where they're just begging for money, and it's so incredibly sad to see that. And you know it's sad to see that. It tugs at all of our heartstrings, and we all want to do more, but most of us who want to do more have this horrible relationship with money, which makes it impossible to do more and to start solving problems at the root so they stop popping back up again and again and again. So, man, I really hope I helped some of you make a breakthrough. I hope you got a ton of value from this in a way that the planet is going to benefit. And also I want to say, last note here, go to my website, tombirkenmeyer.com. Speaking of money and learning how to exchange value for money, pick up my list of 31 ways of raising money now without having any money. What a concept. 31 ways. I started on that when I was one step away from being homeless and no job, no income. And even if you just get 2 or 3 things out of that list of 31, you'll probably get more than that. That's enough to get going and to start being faithful with the little things so that you have more later. I've also got a 30 Days to Profit training sequence that I begin starting the 1st of every month. So if you're interested in that and really learning how to exchange value for money, and also building up those passive streams of income that I talked about earlier, which is a step up from just trading value, but systems that trade value, whether you're working or sleeping or taking a vacation or retiring from the job racket, that's a great place to get that going. So my 30 Days to Profit training sequence, if you'd like to know more about that, just connect with me privately. I'll show it to you, and if it's a fit for you, great. If you don't see it as a fit for you, that is totally cool. My way isn't the only way, and I want you to know that, so that you're at least more apt to taking a look at it. I guess I'll give you a quick panoramic view of where I'm at. I've just been sort of walking around here while I shoot this. And then I'll include some real-world testimonials from within my 30 Days to Profit group so that you can see where people are coming from and what they've accomplished in it. It's really cool. And that's it. So take care, everyone. Enjoy this view. Early morning, so it's kind of quiet here, which is a stark contrast to the late night evening hours. Alright, I'll hear from some of you very soon. I'll show you that 30 Days to Profit training sequence, and I'll see some of you pick up that copy of 31 Ways to Raise Money Without Having Any Money. Take care. Talk to you later.